takes, principal one.
Okay, so then he can, Tom, just start out with your intro, and then if you want to just skip ahead to the emotional tank section, assuming that we've already done the introduction to the workshop, that's fine.
I'll probably use a couple of things because it's part of my introduction. But other than that, okay.
Okay. The only other suggestion is if you have people in the room, we're just going to be here, Ruben and Joe and I and Nicole. We can just be here observing. You don't have to call on us. We'll give you some feedback at the end, but during the workshop demonstration, you can just call on the people in the room to be your coaches.
Fantastic. Okay.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Thanks for having me today. My name is Tom Doycher. I'm working for Positive Coaching Alliance. I hope that I can bring some ideas that can help you in your profession. I think from my experience, I think it's just absolutely wonderful message. And I'll explain how I got to that message in a minute. But before we get started, we do need to take attendance. And this is really difficult for me. When I retired as a teacher, my principal got up in front of the group and said, I'm not sure what Tom's going to be doing in retirement, but I know he won't be taking attendance, because I always skipped that part and got right into what I was doing. So I'm going to have, this is new for me, I'm going to have the discipline to take attendance here. So please text to that number, your phone number, first and last name, and your email address. This is very important for future communications with Positive Coaching Alliance, so that we can get to you the materials that are developed and you can constantly be upgraded in the new ideas that are there. So this is very important, even though it hasn't been a strength of mine in the past. While you're doing that, I'd like to talk about myself a little bit. I've coached, and I'm still coaching. I'm an assistant football coach and actually a junior high track coach now. In retirement as a teacher, I've been retired as a teacher for a couple of years. I've actually been coaching for 42 years. I've coached girls, I've coached guys. I've coached golf, baseball, track in the spring. I've coached football and boys and girls basketball in the winter. So I've had a lot of experiences from the varsity level to the junior high level. I'm also a parent of two kids that were athletes. One of them played golf at St. Thomas. So I saw the little kid athletics through college athletics as well, and got to be that. Well, my old athletic director always told us that when you're the parent of an athlete, for that period of time, you're always mentally ill. So I felt the feelings of that parents feel. I think I understand that side of it as well. I'm also a grandparent of little kids. I've spent this summer going to Little League Baseball. So I tried to observe through the Positive Coaching Alliance lens what was going on all summer. I found that very interesting perspective to take on, but a very good experience. I was also an athlete, so I've been on that side of it. I grew up out in Marshall, Minnesota, in the western part of the state, played 3 sports, had a lot of success as a high school athlete, actually. Went on to Gustavus and played football there, where I got to learn what it felt like to sit on the bench and do all those other things, which I thought were tremendous experiences for me when I got into coaching. I think it helped me relate to kids from the captain, which I was in high school, to the kids sitting on the bench, which I was in college. I think that that variety of experiences really helped me in my coaching career. Why Positive Coaching Alliance? Well, last year, about in October, just before, the day before the Twin Cities Marathon, I dropped my wife and daughter off to run the 10K. And I wasn't running. I do work out, but I don't run. And I had an hour to kill while I was waiting for them to finish. There was a Positive Coaching Alliance table in the tent there. So I had to go talk to these people. And as I got to visiting, it sounded like an organization where I could really buy into their philosophies. I had done a little bit of public speaking when I retired from teaching and coaching. It was a desire of mine. I spoke out at Pipestone High School to a group of parents, and I spoke to a state community ed group in a breakout session. But I didn't know how to get my name out there and really get into telling people what I had to say. And the reason I had something to say was I just felt like, okay, I've done this for 42 years. I don't want my experiences just to end and just go away. Like, they're no longer valuable to anybody. I was hoping that someone else could learn from what I went through in all the roles that I previously held. So that got me talking to Positive Coaching Alliance. Eventually talked to Ruben, took a quiz while I was sitting in the ice fishing house this winter, and fought my way through the technology and got to the point where this is my my third presentation. I've chosen today to talk about the principle number 1 on our list, the filling the emotional tank, and this is where you guys come in. Getting through a few of these rather quickly. Filling the emotional tank. The word connected. Last time I spoke, and you guys have seen the video, I spoke to a group of teachers that I taught with. I asked first to just have a couple people listen to me. Kelly had told me that she had done so with a church group, and that'd be great practice. I didn't like talking into the Google Hangout only thing. I want to talk to some real people to see. And these guys knew me, so I told them, tell me if I'm loud. You know, give me some real feedback. Don't just love a little hot air. Just let me know what you really think. And so that's what I was looking for. Well, the principal, when I told him what I want to talk about, I mean, all these teachers come, all the high school teachers and the middle school teachers come to listen to me. And it was all about the word connected. He felt that I, as a teacher, did a good job. He saw that as my strength, was connecting with kids. And part of my teaching career was working in an alternative school with really tough kids. And the only way you get those kids to do anything is you spend 2 months getting connected first before they'll ever think about doing anything for you. So I like that part of this. That's why I chose that for today, because it's my favorite part of this presentation. Okay. Positive Coaching Alliance's answer to helping kids get connected deals with their philosophy they call filling the emotional tank. We are emotional human beings. We have ups and we have downs. Okay. As we go through this, and I like her, but I think I want to make one point here. We have to emotional tanks for kids. It's not just about making kids feel good. It's helping them produce at a higher level. And I don't think you guys as a group of coaches would come listen to me if you didn't think for a minute that maybe, just maybe, you might win a few more ball games because you're listening. I don't care about all that other stuff. Coaches have to believe if they're going to spend some time, that deep down inside, even though some of them don't want to talk about it, they obviously want to win. And so that double goal coaching, yes, we're going to talk about life lessons, but those life lessons are going to help us produce even more. My principal backed that up with me, because he was saying those life lessons are going to help his teachers do a better job. And so that's, to me, the real importance of what we do is, yeah, we're teaching life lessons, and that's where our focus is, but we're trying to get people to produce at a higher level. Okay? The emotional tank. Any questions on what I mean by a full tank or a less than a full tank here? Okay, this group I have, you guys have an assignment.
Okay.
You got to come up with 3 or 4 things that drain your tank. I don't want necessarily be from athletics. It could be your boss, your spouse, something in your neighborhood, or it could be from an athletic experience, but it doesn't have to be. Come up with a couple of 3, 4 things that you could tell the group just plain drain your tank. Okay? While they're doing that, what I want you to think about is, okay, what fills me up? What happens to me in my relationships with other people, again, boss, friends, spouse, athletes, whoever, it fills me up. I want you guys to feel what the athletes are feeling. I'll give you a couple minutes here.
Simon, watch the camera, Barry.
Ooh, sorry.
Criticisms.
Bad body language. People who don't listen, you realize that they're not connected to you. They don't care.
I feel like you're in your huddle, Barry. I feel close to you here. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
People are very opinionated.
Yeah, people's,
Who don't
anytime
listen.
I feel like I'm doing something well and someone disagrees with that,
Yeah.
when I think I'm on a high myself,
Right,
and
right.
someone comes and shoots me down,
Pops the balloon.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, done.
I'm done.
Let's see.
I love that.
Well, when people are sarcastic and it kind of gives you the impression they don't
They don't really care.
They don't
They're
really care.
kind of aloof.
Yeah.
I think we have both three apiece.
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring it back. What brings you down? I heard one that I
Yeah,
have to elaborate on.
when I feel like I'm doing really well at something, and someone comes in and disagrees with that.
I use this example, talking to a group of teachers the night before. I had done the dishes on my own accord. Thought I had done a nice thing. I usually do dishes. And all I heard was one plate wasn't clean enough for some reason. I got lectured on that one plate. That brings you down. You thought you'd done something well. How an athlete? Think an athlete who thinks they're really working hard, doing something well, gets no response or a negative response, not gonna drain the tank. What else do we have?
Oh, when you feel like you're being ignored. Good example is, when you're up there getting a workshop for PCA and you've got 3/4 of the people who are, eyes are engaged, and you say something and they smile at your nice comments and they shake their head and say, yes, I agree with that. And so you really feel engaged. Then you got 2 or 3 people over here who are absolutely out. They're not engaged at all. So they're somewhat ignoring who I am, and that kind of, as excited as I am about this group over here, these people start to bring me down.
Absolutely, 40 years. You know how I feel.
Yeah, and your goal is to get 3/4 versus 1/4, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Any others that you really felt strongly about?
And bad body language.
Body language, people who just kind of like, you can tell that you're going to have to chip the granite away to get to these people.
Okay. Very good. And I think, again, I think our athletes feel that same thing. What brings you guys up?
We talked about acknowledgement or recognition is something that can really lift you up, make you feel good about what you've done. Powerful, very powerful, and very inexpensive.
Inexpensive. I said a raise at first. I mean, that would fill my tank. But compliments, just, appreciation.
Very much so. Having conversations back to my last presentation, talking about teachers, when we used to have what was called an appreciation dinner at our school once a year, and everybody thought it was a waste of money because it felt like, okay, for one night, you show appreciation. How about the other 185 days that you're working? And it was a very negative environment at the time. And this was the answer, was a one night of dinner. I got to feel the same way about athletic banquets at the end of the year. If you have not shown appreciation to your athletes all year long, and then all of a sudden you have this banquet with a few kids get a few trophies, what have you accomplished with that banquet? And so I think as a coach, you have to be really careful on how you handle that banquet. I've heard enough parents talk about that. You better acknowledge every kid. And it's very, very important. So those acknowledgements, and again, like you said, they're inexpensive. They don't cost you. You don't have to have a banquet. You don't have to give away a golden apple. You just have to say, hey, I saw that. We'll take. So let's go on to see what professional or positive coach alliance says about this. Only emotional take. It was amazing when I saw this because I still sub at the school that I taught at once in a while. And the algebra teacher that I sub for on occasion has this very prominent place in her classroom. And I thought she liked that when we gave the presentation. I gave her a little kudos on having this. People will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's so important. Okay, so how do you think, you guys that were positive, okay, how do you think that affects how you are? Does it change your production? Does it change how much you get done during the day? Does it change how you interact with your kids or your family? How, you know, how would you say that would change?
I think absolutely 100%. When I'm feeling energized and content and happy, I'm much more productive. More productive with people, my relationships are better, and I get a ton more. Okay. Just from a work environment, from an athletic, it's the same.
How about, how do you behave when thought you've done a good job, you're working your tail off, and you get shot down? How does that, what happens next for you in terms of your production after that?
I quit.
I
I quit. I'm okay. I don't do good enough stuff for you. I'm done.
So never have this happen to you when you're giving a presentation.
I quit.
I quit. I would quit too. I mean, that's what I feel. My first response is, you do the dishes next time.
Yep.
Okay, and how are our kids gonna react? They're gonna quit. Okay, it's not just the kids. I work with a coach who had a lot of success at Norwood, and every bad email that he gets, he's gonna quit. Now, for some reason he hasn't yet, but that's his first response. So, when athletes are, I'm really focused on the coachable part, because I've heard my whole career from other coaches complaining about kids, saying the kids aren't coachable. And I thought, well, what's your part of that as a coach? What's your part? It's like they're throwing it on to the kid. You know, it's none of it's my fault as the coach. How do I work with this kid who's not coachable? Well, maybe you better find a way. And that's part of what Positive Coaching Alliance is all about. Okay, so if we have a full tank, we're much more optimistic. We deal better with adversity, and we're more coachable. Okay, did anybody read the Maya Moore article for the links? Talked about dealing with the adversity they went through and how she stayed connected and kept the kids connected, or the links connected through their adversity. I think articles like that are fantastic for coaches to read, and just absolutely backed up all the research that the Positive Coaching Alliance people have given us. So how many of those did we hit?
We got them all.
We did.
Yeah, we got them all. We had the body language here. You had the ignoring that you didn't like, criticism, and that was after doing something well. Sarcasm, that one's tough for me because I've been told I've been somewhat sarcastic my whole life in the classroom, but I think I get away with it because the kids think I'm connected to them in the first. You know, it's a different level of sarcasm, maybe. So I had a hard time with that one when I first did it because I know I can get sarcastic. Truthful, specific praise. Kids know the difference. If you don't want to blow hot, if you compliment them on doing things well, or if you just compliment them to compliment them, there's two very different things. Kids understand that. There's absolutely no question. Appreciation, we talked about that in great detail. Listening, all of us husbands struggle with this one. Okay, we all struggle with this one, but we gotta listen to our athletes. Years ago, I had a baseball coach who was a good friend of Dick Siebert's, and Dick Siebert, go for baseball coach who the stadium's named after. His mom passed away. Well, my old high school coach has too, but he had, and he's probably the reason I taught and coach, was this guy. But when he was teaching me something, I know I was going from shortstop to second base. He's trying to teach me the pivot for the double play, and he asked me all the questions and then listened to my answers, and they never forgot that. He didn't come out and just demonstrate, do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. He said, well, what do you think, Tom? You know, how are we going to do this a little differently? And he listened. And he always did. He stopped to see me when I was teaching 20 years later, and he would want to know how things were going. He was a great listener, and he filled my tank as a result. No questions about it. What can we do to be more positive? We can be more positive, yeah. We can up our ratio to 5 to 1. just like kids accepting sarcasm or accepting any kind of criticism, I think it's extremely important that you've established a real positive relationship first. I never thought of it in terms of 5 to 1. Okay, I never thought of that any kind of ratio, even though I was a math teacher. Do you think they use this ratio out in the business world, anyone? I've heard it many times since I brought it up to my people in my neighborhood. Oh yeah, 5 to 1. We've heard that. You want to get more out of your employees, 5 to 1. 5 compliments or 5 uplifting messages to 1 negative. There's a man in my neighborhood who's retired, and we talk about how difficult it is to be retired because it's not as easy as you might think. I think for me, for both of us, we felt very insignificant once we retired. It all sounds like it's, this utopia, but you were very busy, you had an influence on some things your whole life, and all of a sudden you're nothing. So I've had a long conversation with him. He worked for Lifetouch, the photography company, and he managed 50 people in his region. And he said when he turned his region around, it was when he realized he had to be more positive. So I was telling him about my speech before I went to give it. He says, here's what I did, Tom. I put 10 dimes in my pocket, in my right pocket. My goal was by the end of the day to have every one of those dimes move to my left pocket. The only way to move a dime was to compliment somebody. So every day I had to move my 10 dimes. He said, it's unbelievable, the impact that it had. He said, I go to people's retirements now and they talk about my 10 dimes. So a simple way of, it's not the 5 to 1 magic ratio, but the concept is the same. When I gave this to teachers, they said I could put 5 dimes in my pocket in each class period. They may not get the 5 to 1, but if they're doing it hour by hour, you're creating a more positive environment. I'll go along with him. I like this. What do we do? Positive Coaching Alliance has Dasso Cocato as one of their schools. Okay, I have a good friend out there that I coached with. I asked him about, in fact, he was roughing at the time. I asked him what he thought. He only saw the life lesson, positive stuff. He didn't see the winning. Okay. So I asked him about this. Okay, so you're not playing so well. Are you just going to get grumpy? How are you going to handle it? And as we talked, eventually he came up with what I think was something that made sense. Yes, you have to critique, we'll sort of criticize. We talk, you got to break things down into smaller goals. If your team isn't capable of beating Glencoe Silver Lake, maybe you got to say, we got to get to the point where we can win a quarter, or get so many first downs, or stop them from getting so many first downs. So you create goals that are reachable for your kids so that you can stay positive in that regard. Avoid non-teachable moments when we do criticize in private. Have any of you ever been criticized publicly?
Mhm.
Have you? What's it feel like?
Shaming.
Have you ever watched someone else get criticized in public? What's that make you feel like when you're just watching?
But it's you.
Glad it's not you. My first year coaching basketball down in little town of Mountain Lake, Minnesota, I was a 9th grade coach. The head coach started ripping on a kid, and it was so awful. I was just watching. I felt this bad. I can't imagine what he felt like.
What I just thought of, and that is that you start relating to the athlete that's being criticized, and all of a sudden you're not relating to your coach anymore. You're relating to the athlete, and now you've sort of built up this barrier between myself and the coach just to try and help protect emotionally this teammate. So that is really counterproductive.
Knowing when to criticize is extremely important. Watertown Mayor girls basketball has been very successful of late. They're Orno. I know the coach real well, but he was also assistant football coach, and we run into each other when he was coaching girls basketball and football at Norwood. We beat him one time and we could hear through the locker room. He spent 45 minutes after the game just going after his girls. I found out later at the barbershop where I learned a lot of things, about coaching especially, that he got a lot of criticism from parents for that. But I said, at one point, I said, John, you're a football coach, right? Yep. So you know that you really don't know what happened in a football game until you've seen the film. You really don't know. I don't care who you are. You really don't know until you've seen the film. And when these NFL guys say, I'll wait till I see the film, they're not just putting you off. There's a lot of truth to it. I said, use that concept in basketball. Wait till you've seen the film. Go to practice the next day. You know you're right on what it is that you're talking about. The emotion has been taken out of it. Now you can be instructive rather than destructive and deal with that. And the kids get their ride home and the parents are sitting out in the park and all upset with you and all those things. Know when to criticize or know when not to. And I learned coaching girls basketball because I couldn't go in the locker room. That after a game, I didn't have to do it. I could wait till the next day. It's the best thing I ever learned. I made a lot of mistakes prior to that. Coaching girls basketball was really good for me when I went back to guys. Criticize in private, we just talked about that. Tools to help you figure out if you're being positive or not. The buddy system, I've never tried any of these things, to be honest with you, as a coach. Have any of you? In a coaching role, tried some of these things? Which ones have you tried?
Well, what are they?
Well, the buddy
Explain them and
system,
then
okay, that's right, yeah, I keep thinking of you as positive coaching alliance people. The buddy system, you're assigning a teammate to another kid, and they're there to fill each other's emotional tanks. Okay? Have you ever went to the bother to assign a buddy to each player? Have you? What level? What sport?
Softball.
Okay, and what generated what was it that motivated you to do that?
I had some girls who were not bonding as well with the other girls, and so I assigned buddies myself and people they had to practice with, so they couldn't pick their own partners and always leave these 3 girls out.
Okay. What I did without knowing was the buddy system, because almost every basketball team, I always have a couple of kids that you really respect and you had a good relationship with. And if a kid was hurting or we get left out, I just asked that captain or that leader on the team, take care of that kid well. It was amazing what those kids do. Absolutely amazing what they do for each other. And so I think the psychology is the same, but I think I would have done a better job if I'd have been more structured about it and thought a little bit more deeply about it. Charting, never thought to have someone stand there and chart how many times I was positive. Oh, I'd be scared probably. But what an idea. You could have a manager do it. I think in bigger situations, an assistant coach, let's say you're struggling and you as a head coach are getting criticized for being too negative. Excellent response will be to have that assistant coach chart that.
Invariably, you're going to have athletes of different abilities. And my belief is that on a team, you're going to have athletes that probably have different goals, individual goals throughout the practice, throughout the season. And that's what I look at in terms of positive charting. Rather than talking to my team always collectively, I want to be able to talk to someone who is struggling with blocking or struggling with catching or struggling with hitting and give them realistic goals that they can achieve during the season. And when they're making strides in that effort, to try and pinpoint that and make sure that they're aware that I'm watching that.
Oh, absolutely. And that kind of comes into that next principle too.
Yeah.
Of noticing.
Yeah.
Noticing effort.
Right.
The winner's circle, to some degree, I see most teams do this. Watching my grandson's little league team, they all got together after every game, win or lose, and had the winner's circle, and always was very positive. And it talked about the plans for the future. But I like your idea of it's individual more so than the team. And I think you have to I think you gotta find a way, at least, football's a little tougher because the numbers are bigger. Basketball is easy. You can almost see every kid every day to some degree. Say, hey, I heard you did a great job on that math test. A lot of times, my best basketball teams, I always have a couple of kids who weren't very good basketball players, but they're great students. So we win the section academic awards for those guys. And I make a big deal about that, you know. And so I think that the team stuff's good, you know, be positive in that regard, but at the same time, I think the individual stuff is very important. I think that's so staying connected. We get into the second principle now. I would just like to make one comment about something that I think I told Kelly about it the last time I talked. If you're looking for a video that does a really good job of talking about what belief in one another can do for a group, watch Jim Balvano talking to a $1 million roundtable group back in Chicago. It's an outstanding speech. It's funny because Balvano was incredibly funny, but he does a great job at that end of the talking about believing in the people he works for, the people who work for him, the people he works with, and that support that comes, which I relate to filling emotional tanks. Any questions, comments, things that struck you as caught your attention to say, you know, I gotta try that, or never thought of it quite that way?
You know, the old adage, there's strength in numbers. And when you talk about coaches not understanding sometimes that our principles create better performance in addition to making better people, as you handle each individual, and as those relationships between the coach and the kids and the kids and the kids become stronger because of those PCA, they're just the old adage, there's strength in numbers. You're going to have a team that's going to be better performing because they're stronger together as a collective group.
In all my years, I didn't know anything about PCA. We call that, this team gets it.
Gets it. Yeah.
We couldn't find exactly what it was, but when we had a connected group, we knew they got it, and the production was much better. So I think, you know, I have to learn the terminology of PCA, but the concepts have become very clear to me from experience on what we've done. Questions for me?
Are we off? Are we out of our deal?
Yeah,
Kelly?
I think we're good. I think we're good. Thanks, Tom.
30 minutes?
Yes, you did.
Good.
You did. All right. Thank you very much. Let's put on our PCA hats now. And I'd love for the people in the room PCA hat. No, you have your PCA hat on ready. I'd love for the people in the room to let's help you out here. So I'd love to hear, if you were at a workshop that Tom just did, even though it was a small part of it, what part of it resonated with you? What did you like about what he did? Either his style, content, stories, activities, whatever he did. What's something, I don't know how many people are in the room. I can't really tell. It doesn't have to go on for a half hour, but just something that you liked about what Tom did. And then maybe if you have a suggestion for him, for if he goes out to do this as a live workshop, what's a suggestion or some feedback that you have that could help him improve? So I'll let somebody in the room facilitate that because I can't see who's there.
I'll start off. I think the stories and the history that you have with coaching, and then you can bring a story into this equation about your experience and how it's worked for you. That really resonates with me, and it resonates, I'm sure, with the other parents, whoever you're giving this to. So bring in more stories because they're great.
I got the same response when I gave this to my teachers. My sister, who's an English teacher, communication person, said, Tom, she just watched. She was sitting aside and watching. She said, when you were talking about the PowerPoint, people were sitting back in their chairs. When you're telling the story, you talk about body language, I didn't notice it when I was up in front, but she, being a speech teacher, noticed that. So I think that is a strength. I've gotten that a few times now.
Yeah, you have a very, very great style. I mean, it's a personable style. It's one where you, like you say, you weave your stories into the content, and it's a very smooth transition, which I think is great. You know what, Kelly? I think Joel and Tom and I, we should start the senior circuit of PCA. What do you think? Just send us out into the boonies and we'll give us a sandwich or two and we'll come back with PCA disciples.
I love it.
You like that?
Yep.
I think your goal is to maintain that style, maintain those stories. Your gray hair and your experience speaks for itself. And people, like you were just saying, people listen to those stories. Your goal will be to be able to connect those stories specifically to what you want to say. I've been where you're at, and it's harder the earlier you are in this whole game because you're concentrating on this stuff and you have all this myriad of stories that you want to relay to people. It's the back and forth kind of thing and the connection of those. As you get further into your experience, I mean, that's going to become easier for you to do. But keep that in mind, that's where the ultimate presenter in your case, I think, is going to be.
I've always talked too much.
No.
No, I have a lot to say, and that's why I did this. I want to tell a story.
Sure.
Well, I would take a couple of slides out of there. Just 'cause you're skipping over a lot, and I don't think you need them. I mean, I think
You've got to meet my sister. She told me the exact same thing. Yeah, get them out of there. I mean, just.
well, I mean, they're great slides, but
Yeah.
if you're, because it is kind of confusing because I'm reading the slide, but you're moving past it to the next topic where you want to be.
Right.
And I think if you
I
can,
almost forget about the slides. Kelly told me that on my first one that I did, that I literally almost didn't talk about the slides at all. That was our first Google Hangout once. I know that that's part of what I have to do.
so I mean, and I do this work. Less is more, right?
Right.
If you have 4 or 5 slides, and then you just take over, then you don't have that confusion. Well, I got to move that slide.
Kelly, I never modify slides, do I?
No, not at all. A colleague of mine once quoted John Wooden, and I think it's a great quote, that you need to know the trade before you know the tricks of the trade. And so I think
Wait, you're frozen, Kelly.
I'm frozen. Am I still frozen?
No,
now
you're
you're
good now.
okay.
Okay.
John Wooden said,
Know the trade before you know the tricks of the trade. And
Yeah.
so I do think it is important, the slides the way they are and the workshop the way it is, to be comfortable with the flow that we're suggesting. And then as you become more comfortable, Tom, with your style, you might find yourself hiding some slides or switching the order of some things. For example, you had the slide up that had the 3 principles, and you were asking, which I thought was a great activity, you were asking the people to talk about what fills their tank and what drains their tank. And instead of having the wrong slide up, you could have the slide with the gas tank on it, just as a visual. You don't necessarily have to be referring to it, but it would at least be a visual aid for you while you're doing that activity. Now, if that wasn't in the order that you wanted it to be in, you can switch the order around a little bit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
If I knew what I was doing, because I actually thought of that this morning when I knew that I wanted that activity, is I didn't want to show them the answers first,
Mm-hmm.
to what empties your tank, and that kind of out of order for me in the way I wanted you guys to do the activity. So I'd have to.
Yeah. Well, the way the slide comes up, the answers aren't there right away. You actually have to click to get the answer. So that's what I'm saying. Just as you hone your workshop and you connect it to your stories and what you want to say, you'll find that a lot of the slides there, I mean, if there's extra ones that you don't want in there, you can run it by Joe, run it by Ruben, run it by me, and we'll walk you through it. But if you can hone your stories and everything to go in order with the slides, it keeps the structure there. I'm not saying be married to the slides. You know that.
You're frozen again, Kelly.
I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm freezing. Go ahead, continue. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm freezing.
So
You're good now.
can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not frozen?
Well, it's yet to be determined.
Okay. So whenever Kelly's talking, she's not freezing for me. So I think it's a temporary glitch or connection on your end there, because she hasn't frozen for me. Just FYI. But yeah, somebody who said less is more.
Eric.
Okay, so in terms of my my feedback to you, Tom, I think you do so many good things, and you start from such a strong foundation, right? Your experience as an administrator, coach, parent, athlete, boom, you've got all that background. And to me, for me personally, the two most engaging parts of the workshop were when you had us talk about what drains our own tanks, to personalize it, and I could hear Barry and Carrie talking to each other, and then I really like the Dimes example, concrete example tool that you added to PCA's tools about how you can remain positive, you can be positive and work towards 5 to 1. I think less is more, and whether it's taking slides out or whether it's certain slides, you say 1 or 2 sentences and keep yourself moving. I want to see a faster pace, faster clip. I want shorter time on each point you're making, including your introduction. I like your introduction, what's in it, and I think it can be cut way down. And what that's going to do, Tom, is it's going to create more space, more time for the voices in the room to come forward. There has to be a higher percentage of time where the participants' voices are the ones being heard, as opposed to your voice. So I think all the ingredients are there, Tom. I really would like you to move in that direction.
Ruben?
Yes.
I think that's an excellent point, and it's been my experience that as the participants share and then present what they've come up with to the whole group, then when I then apply the PCA principles or my experience or my stories to theirs, then there's a much better synergy within the group. It's a better workshop. I may be saying the same things, but I'm saying them as a result or in conjunction with what the group has come up with.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a very important point.
I like stories too. I think we all like stories, and I think in any workshop there's a lot of stories out there, and I think that I have some stories, and I think the participants have some stories. And what story, like there's no one way of doing this, Tom, as you know, but your dime example, you can immediately follow up. Is there, what have you done or what have you seen other coaches do as reminders to help them stay positive, help them work to the 5 to 1? At PCA, we have a concept, a tool called ask rather than tell, and it applies to coaching. What can you do differently next time that ball is hit to your left that'll give you a better chance to make the play, as opposed to just telling you? You ask rather than tell. And I think our style as PCA trainers is to ask rather than tell often. Ask rather than tell often. So that kind of sums up my impressions.
Can I say something on that? I
Please.
was, talking about the coach that always asked you how you would do it. It's just like you being up there asking us how we would do it. Most athletes, most people remember stuff if they have to regurgitate it themselves. So if we're not engaging and talking, we're not buying into the PCA way as much as if you're just telling us, right? So I agree with what Ruben was saying there. And I also really liked that you were giving your opening story and who you are, where you came from, while you were letting people log in, because that does take a period of time. I really like that you tied those together, because I've seen other workshops where they say, okay, log in, and they let it be quiet. And then they go, okay, now here's about me. So I like that you filled that kind of quiet space with your story while they were doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And the dime thing was great.
That is great.
That's the one thing, aside from meeting you and hearing your story, that's the one thing that I took away. That really went over well. First time I should have too. What I like about that is that they're taking it out to the corporate world.
Yeah.
This isn't just how you treat kids. This is how you treat people. This is something that you may manage people someday as a 15-year-old basketball player right now.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the more simple examples that are easily implemented, that is like
That's
the
gold.
best value.
That's
I
gold.
mean, for them, like, oh, this doesn't take homework and hard, you know.
Right.
So I agree, and I love that. Some others, I really agree with Barry. You have a great voice and a great presence. Not everybody does. So kudos for that. I loved your intro. I want to hear that you're a grandpa too, and that your kids are now playing sports. And
you heard just as much when things don't go well for them as you did for your own kids, just to let you know.
yeah,
It doesn't feel any different.
totally, yeah. But you know what? That oozes your passion for, you know, as an educator, coach, administrator, parent, the life lessons. It's not just the wins. You know how kids come out on the other end and the value sports brought to them. So that's what I want to take away from your whole life experience. Just a little comment on something like the quote by Maya Angelou is, that's an easy thing for picking someone, like you didn't read the quote, and that's old when people are reading slides. Pick someone in the audience to read it and make a comment on it. That's an easy way for participation.
Right.
So just a thought there. And then for me, like your example at the end of that great tape to watch from the 1980s, I don't know who that was. So for me, don't assume that everybody knows who that is. And that's okay, that's okay.
He's the name of a cancer research foundation now. And they raise all this money in the fall with college basketball for.
So just put the parameters of how impressive, and that they should want to go watch that. So just think little things like that, but yeah, examples, you did a great job. I really appreciate the work you put in.
I enjoy it. I think when I walked in here, I knew what I have to get better at, and still have to get better at it.
That's okay.
Do you guys think that it's easier to get people involved back and forth in a more real, this is a little bit of a realistic situation, but you think it'd be easier for me if there are 20 people sitting in this room that weren't PCA people?
Oh, more PCA people?
Less,
No,
PCA people?
No, I think you still have to be okay picking on them, separating them, giving them instructions, be super specific, because you could walk in and feel really cold.
I caught myself keep thinking, you guys already know what I'm talking about, and that was hard for me a little bit.
Well, we're passionate about the message, so you know, we just want to hear what you have to say about it and what kind of angle you take. You may have 25 or 50 people who are forced to be there.
Right.
And they're saying, God, how long is this going to take?
No, I know.
They don't want to go and talk.
What I did to the teachers, I knew that this was the end of the year. Last thing they're going to want is me to demand a bunch of effort from them.
Yeah.
But I did get a lot of positive feedback, and that they enjoyed it more than they thought they were going to, let's say.
Yeah.
And I had to change, I had to relate it to teaching. I had to take whenever you say that, see the word coach, put in the word teacher in their minds, and a lot of what we talked about, it went fine, but I don't know. I had a hard time drawing them into activity at that point.
You know, in the last, Jim Thompson, when he had the phone conversation with all the trainers, and he talked about some issues or some concerns that he had, and maybe some changes that he'd like to see in order to make the effectiveness of the workshops better, especially for the parents, that type of thing. Someone once told me, and it stuck with me forever, on public speaking. He says, the first thing you do is you tell them what you're going to tell them. The second thing you do is you tell them, and the third thing you do is you tell them what you told them. And that is really the only way you're going to get people to remember what you did. I mean, it's the repetitive thing. It's just like the muscle memory in sports. And if there's a way that, I mean, we've all had this experience when we talk about PCA and the principles, we know we're connecting with them, we know they understand it, and they walk out of that room thinking, that was great. We hope that's the case anyway. But with your teachers, when you talk to them at the end of the school year, now the summer goes by, they come back. If you ask them, And again, if you ask them what you told them, they'd probably be hard pressed to, the dime thing maybe come up, but it's how you made them feel. And that's why it's so important to make them feel passionate about what they're doing, because then they'll remember more.
I actually had a response from one of them. No, we need you to come back in the fall.
Well, exactly.
And then next winter.
No. And that's exactly the point I was making. And as we have to find, for the effectiveness of what we're doing, we have to find a way to get back in touch with these people somehow, with who we are, what we want to tell them, because they're now opened up, they're receptive to what we're going to say. We just need to be there in front of them to say it.
So Barry,
Kelly, can I jump in? I can't help myself.
I can't help myself either. Go ahead, Ruben. You're my boss. I'll let you speak.
I'm the boss right now. Hey, it's so rare that Kelly, Joe, and I are able to be on with a couple of trainers, chapter staff, and a local chapter training committee together. So I want to take advantage for 1 minute or two to make sure that we're all on the same page. So I'm going to throw out 6 terms, and I want you to pick the 3 that you think most describe what we're looking for in a PCA trainer. Okay, so I'm going to throw out 6 terms. If you want to jot them down, you can. The first term is speaker. Second term, teacher. Third term, presenter. Fourth term, trainer. Fifth term, lecturer. Sixth term, facilitator. So I threw out 6. I want you to pick your personal top 3 as to what, from your perspective, what you think Kelly, Joe, Ruben, and Jim Thompson are looking for in our folks who go out and lead our workshops.
Could I add one, Ruben?
Can I add one?
Since you gave 6, can I give a 7th?
Yes.
Coach.
Coach, exactly, exactly. Because coach encompasses a little bit more than teacher.
Okay.
So Barry, which 3 are you going to pick out of those 7?
Facilitator, coach, and let's see, who am I? Why am I in this room? Trainer. What were they again? Run them real by.
Speaker, lecturer,
Teacher.
So we got coach and facilitator.
presenter.
Teacher, trainer, lecturer, presenter, speaker.
Okay, I'm going with coach, facilitator, and teacher. That's what I'm going with.
Thank you, Kelly. Which of the 7 terms would you eliminate? If what are we not necessarily looking for?
Lecturer.
Okay, that's the first one you would eliminate.
I crossed that out. Yep.
What's the second one you would eliminate?
Presenter.
What's the third one you would eliminate?
Speaker.
Okay, those are my 3 too. Okay, those are my 3 too. So, the mindset of a speaker, of a presenter, of a lecturer, just want to be careful that, and I don't even like using those terms. I don't like using those terms. I like the other terms. Kelly knows that I don't like referring to the workshop participants as an audience, because audience means
they listen.
One way, they listen. I want them to be doers. I want them to be participants. So, hey, Kelly, it occurs to me that we're near the top of the hour, and you and I need to get on our trainer team weekly call. So do you want to wrap us up?
Sure. I mean, I'd like, you guys can stay in the room and talk. I have a couple little bits of feedback as well. And I just wanted to voice my side here. Tom, first of all, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and Amy and Carrie and everybody in the room. As Ruben said, this is very rare to get, 3 national lead trainers, a room full, the beautiful setup, the dog by the fireplace. I mean, you guys got the whole thing. You guys got the whole thing going. And if I were to use this as the perfect example of what I'd want to put every single trainer candidate through, this would be it. So thank you so much for organizing this. This is fantastic. And I also love that we're able to give feedback here. Tom, as they said, I'm not going to repeat what everyone said, but you do so many things well. You really do. And I think it's a matter of just reframing. It's very hard to take someone that's been teaching for as long as you have and coaching and playing and parenting and all of that stuff. I mean, I would love to sit by the fireplace with the dog and talk to you for 3 hours about all that. Personally, I think it'd be awesome. But the problem is at a workshop, the time is limited. The coaches are all coming in with a sort of a consumer mentality of what is this guy going to tell me that's going to make me a better coach, that's going to help me make my players better, that's going to help them win more and have less behavior problems and get more out of the sport. So the limited amount of time that we have, again, what we found is that people will remember and do what they practice and what inspires them. So you have inspired me with your stories, but I think sometimes too many stories are too many of selling points. It's too much of, you know, yes, we have to be positive, and I'm telling you why. Barry went through the same thing. A lot of, I mean, it's like a blessing and a curse that you have so much to give us that you want to tell us all. When Barry was saying, you know, tell them and then tell them again and then tell them again, I was ready to reach through the screen and scream, because it's not about telling them. It's not about telling them at all. It's about them experiencing it. So going through a lot of the things that you did well, super well. I like the connection. I love that you talked about teaching in an alternative school. I love the activity that you did right away with relating it to life. And I love how you said it's not just about sports. You mentioned the business world. You mentioned bosses. So I like that. You're connecting the coaches to the theory very, very well. Then you said, how does a full tank change your production? I mean, that's fantastic. Those are great choices of questions there. You also brought up sarcasm. That's huge. That's you being vulnerable. I'm a sarcastic person. Boy, but you know what? I had a connection with these athletes. I mean, that is such an important part. My favorite story for you, again, was Dick Seberg. How, I think that was his name. That was your baseball coach that asked you questions. That's a story I'll remember, because that relates exactly to one of our tools. That's where I want stories used, if they can help you illustrate a tool that we have. And the dime story, again, that's the 5-to-1 ratio. That's a tool, and I've got a concrete story to exemplify the tool. What I wrote down in my notes is, I want to hear a story from somebody in the room, because I guarantee somebody has another story in the room to exemplify a tool. The part that I want you to change around is when you showed the tools and then said, I've never used any of these, because you are the expert in the room at the time. So whether you have used them or not, I have tools I've never used, but you know what? You better believe I have a coach friend named Barry who lives out in North Dakota, and he's told me this is what he does with his football team. So I become the expert. I'm not the one that says, I've never used these. Have any of you? You know, it's just a different type of authority. And we want you to facilitate the discussion, but you don't have to own it. You don't have to be the expert on all the discussion. Does that make sense?
Yes, in fact, even when I said it, I felt like I was fumbling through it.
Right.
It didn't come off with any kind of, I don't know, pizzazz at all. It
Yes.
wasn't me even to say it.
Right. I mean, again, I've never played water polo, but I did a bang up water polo workshop because I knew how to drag stories and connect tools and ask people the right questions and get them practicing the things in a water polo workshop. So that was my other suggestion. The other thing, the last thing I'm going to say is the tools are what the coaches want. And you sort of glossed over them. Ways to have, I think it was the receivable feedback. It was in the Elm Tree Toolkit. Coaches don't understand. Coaches are trying to tell kids what to do. And if the kids aren't able to receive the feedback, they're not even going to listen to them. So I think, again, that anytime you have tools, that's where we want the coaches to practice it. They can practice. Hey, one of you be a coach, one of you be a player, whatever support it is, that's okay. I want you to give them a criticism sandwich on a skill you just tried to teach them, and have them stand up in the workshop and practice a criticism sandwich. Have them practice the 5-to-1 ratio. Have them practice giving truthful, specific praise. And again, just telling them how to do it isn't going to work. But I can tell you, when I practice giving a criticism sandwich in the workshop, and then I go out to my field tomorrow to practice, I'm going to remember when I pull a girl off to the side, instead of saying, hey, you know what? You just need to hustle back on defense. I'm going to say, you know what you need to do? I love the way you hustled for that ground ball. Now, if we can get back on defense a little quicker, you'll be there ready for when the ball comes down. But your eyes were on and you were communicating. You know, I'll remember that I did that. That's how we can coach up these coaches. So that is my, I'll step off my soapbox there. But that's kind of where I'm coming from, Tom, with your skills, just honing them to be a great facilitator, not just a talker.
Thank you.
Yep.
Kelly,
Joe,
maybe rent
Joe, I don't know if you're there.
$100 an
Joe, I
hour.
know you're on. Joe is in flight,
Yep.
but I know he flapped off for a second. Go ahead, Joe.
Ground. No, it was excellent. And I agree with everything that Kelly said. It's just really a matter of the term I use is giving the workshop back to the participants, really letting them own the expertise in the workshop, as well as sharing yours.
Thanks, Joe. All right, so we're going to sign off because we have a call. All three of us have a call at 2, but you guys feel free to keep talking. And Tom, we will be in touch about the next steps. I'll talk over with Amy and Carrie and the people in the room there, and we'll figure out what the best next step is for you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks
Bye.
again, guys. I really appreciate it.